How does death and resurrection work with all this stuff? What do you mean, exactly? Can death change your nature? A frown spreads across his face. Necromancers in old arcane-era traditions did much study on the topic, and yes, death and subsequent resurrection can function as a reset for the mind in a way, but arguably no less than any other severe trauma. Data is hard to trust, however, so I will not say it for sure. There is much study to do on the topic, and I am no expert. Is there a soul? The fuck do I know? He laughs. Ghosts exist, of course, and as do wraiths and other foul undead spirit things. And there is much arcanist data on such things, like if a person is resurrected, their ghost ceases to be. That implies the ghost is the soul, right? But speak with dead does not. In fact, a ghost is technically able to ask questions to its own corpse. Very surreal. Which implies the soul also leaves a conscious remnant of itself, which is able to be animated through magic. And if a person is resurrected, even after very long periods of time, they have no memory of their time as a free soul. Thus, there is evidence that the soul is not so much your personhood. That shit is all up in the brain from what we can see, but rather just some type of divine spark. Like a power source that wants to be one with the universe, or your god. The Lich is specifically a creature who consumes these so-called souls for their own gain, which is not very common. Well, I know a Lich. Destruction of that magical spark is of course a horrid crime of metaphysical levels, since resurrection, rebirth, or unity with one's god is impossible at that point. Then again, back in the day, it used to be common for mortals to sell their souls to various devils or aberrations. Seems complicated. It is! Can one spontaneously resurrect themselves? Not heard of such a thing, but why not? I died in the river and then woke up in the Lich House. Ah, Viskin's work then. Looked you up and down. When I first opened up the office here, I was informed in hushed tones to not interact with that man. Obviously, he's the first guy I went to chat with. We exchange books sometimes. Lovely man. He's clearly evil to the bone. Oh, yes. He's clearly the most dangerous and powerful creature in this city. Or, maybe top 3. I was about to say, Sphinx is pretty strong. Probably doing some type of secret experiment in that lair of his. One day I hope to hear more about it. Got some other questions. Okay. Oh my god, do I continue? We're at 1 hour and 8 minutes. Why don't you use magic in your mind healing? It does not work. Not the greatest arcanist could invent a spell capable of fixing mental unwellness. You happen to find a cure mind spell, you would make a fucking fortune casting it on rich people around the coast. Although just the thought of such magic gives me a sort of ontological nightmare. What does it mean to have a cured mind? Did Jor, some outside god, at some point decide what constitutes a wound of the mind? In the same way suffering is used to heal wounds of the physical? Pain equals negativity. That is universal. Universal indicator of the negative. Yes, yes, when you heal a person, magic itself targets the source of the pain. As a sort of bullseye for reverting any harm, no matter the source or specific biology of the person. What if one suffers from night terrors caused by some horrors of the past? Should a mind heal spell remove your ability to have night terrors? Or should it remove the traumatic source from your memory? Or simply lessen your mental ability of neuroticism? Could the latter lead to a society without neurotic people? Would that also dampen other fears? What would Jor consider to be a good level of negative thoughts? Sends my mind spinning! No negativity should allow. Everyone should just be happy. The world inside each mind needs to be diverse with both good and ill. The world inside each mind needs to be diverse with both good and ill. I do think we enjoy the good moments more because there are bad moments to offset them. I agree. The most neurotic people might be somewhat tortured, yes, but they are also some of our greatest thinkers and philosophers. Perhaps even partially due to the internal pain. Halfling leans back in the chair. No, the mind requires another method. One I and many others are attempting to untangle. We will see if any of us are even remotely successful in this brain bullshit. What is love? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Love. He lets out a frustrated groan. Pure calamity. Deadly and destructive. Its nature is just perverted and foul, because it is a complete surrender without idealization. To love is to accept, without proof or demands or conditions, this complete surrender to another. Or perhaps multiple. Ridiculously risky. Do you know a lot about love? Sure I do. My wife would certainly attest to it, despite my horrid nature. And the familial love is close to my heart as well. My 2 boys are my most prized works. God's bless you. Must be tiresome to have a wife and kids. I mean, the wife not so much, but the kids, yeah, I can't. You have a wife and kids? Yes, yes, but nothing we need to talk about. Private life is private and so on, he says with a laugh. Does not wish to speak about this, not one bit. His personal life leaves a twinge of pain in the crease of his eyes every time he thinks of it. So, I shouldn't love? I mean, I've definitely had this thought before in my life. He shrugs. If you can? Yes! Of course you should not take such a risky bet. Then he takes a breath, calming himself down for the punchline. Love is a completely unpredictable and dangerous encounter. I have yet to meet a sentient folk which is not afflicted by it. And interestingly enough, I see no difference. It is universal. Elf love, halfling love, devil love. True love is always irrational. It is finding the perfect inside of the imperfect, and falling entirely into it, swallowed by it. Some folk might act it out in different ways, depending on their communal nature or biological urges. If you're one of the few who do not need it, good. Be happy. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely wished that, I just didn't have those feelings many times in my life, especially when I was in high school. I was like, I wish I could just not have the urge to want to, like, feel like I need love or anything like that. You know? Because it's hard. If you are not, then good luck, and may the gods bless your soul. Where'd you say I should look for this book? He leans in 120 feet, then points to the floor, straight down in the city below. That's where the diviner saw it. Read about the tea shop. Oh, horrific. He gestures wildly towards the rock wall. Shit started shaking. It was as if the red rock of Tolstad itself was cracking. For half a second or so. So you were down here when it happened? Yes. I think I was asleep, but the sound woke me. Should you go check it out? No. Someone told me later what it was like. I have work to do here. Hear anything about it? Rumors? You should not believe rumors, cleric, but yes, I did hear some nasty stuff. Some people seem to think the owner did it himself, since he is missing. Some others think the city did it, since they printed a clear lie in the post. I've also heard people say the Asgilists are responsible, since it was their hideout. Or that the Freestriders did it for the same reason, blowing up Asgilist opposition and so on. It's all bullshit, of course. Don't believe rumors. What do you think happened? He shrugs violently. I've got other questions. I love this character. What are you voting in the election? I am a filthy Asgilist. Good choice. It's an acceptable choice. The green banner has flown in a strange context here in this Republican wet dream of ours. Asgilism is supposed to be about abolishing the entire structure of hierarchy. That history is driven by economic struggles, specifically the clash between classes. Asgul's end goal is a classless, stateless society where everyone's equal. Looking at the Norvikian Asgilists, it's clear to me they long ago let this goal slip past. Look at them. They are shaking hands with the establishment, trying to find a peaceful solution, they say. They are simply becoming part of the establishment. Peace is good. We need violent revolution. You want violent revolution? He frowns. Look, the hairy halfling mutters. Genuine change, true change, needs a truly revolutionary break with the existing order. There is no doubt about that. Incremental reforms, small changes within the capitalist system will always fail to address its fundamental contradictions and injustices. My time in Reeds made that clear to me. But always be wary of simplistic utopian visions. There's a path covered in corpses that leads such blind idealism. So I will vote for this social democratic compromise, this handshake with capital. Interesting. This character is interesting, because yeah, we are getting a little bit more about the Asgilist. You're saying that they're just, you know, accepting this, basically. And I said, like, oh, okay, so are you saying you want a violent revolution? Because that is definitely an option, and it has been taken before. But you're saying, no, I'm content currently because things aren't bad enough to allow a handshake with capital and try to have a compromise without things getting violent. But there are also instances where things have and needed to get violent. Like it was a requirement. There needed to be some more serious things done, which makes sense. And yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from here. Then I'll go home and piss myself and die, dreaming the next generation will have answers I do not. I hope the next generation votes for violent revolution. Any Asgilism is too much Asgilism. I, on the other hand, am not an Asgilist. Compromise is good enough for now. I don't hope the next generation votes for violent revolution, because I hope the next generation doesn't have to vote for violent revolution. This brings me to talking about one of probably my favorite games that is incredibly important for this specific idea. And I'm just going to say the name of the game and not say anything else about it, because it is my favorite, one of my favorite games, if not, like, quite frankly, one of my favorite games of all time. And I just resonate very highly with the story. But anyone that has played Tales of Vesperia knows that this is a big part of it. And it has similar interesting ideas about this. Like, Tales of Vesperia is a phenomenal experience, but the story is really, really what grabs me. So, a compromise is good enough for now. You'd think I agreed. Part of me does. View every societal issue through an Asgulus lens, but I do truly hate this idea of tipping the hat to these truly fascist regimes. So do I. So do I. And yes, even the revolutionary freestriders are fascists in a deep sense. How do you think they got their start? Through the coin of those who profited in the great suffering of old Dimenor and the Coast War and the grinding the flesh of humanity. Freestriderism is filthy opportunism, not republicanism. They're just arcanist regimes with a painted mask and slightly less horrific esoterical power in hand. Slightly. Gosh. This character is interesting. Like I said, it is like just talking with a professor, and the way you talk about these things at such length, but then if I really press you on something, you say, like, I don't fucking know, is, like, so valid. Freestriderism is filthy opportunism, not republicanism, yeah. So what, we don't even try to bring about Asgul's dream? Freestriders are more than that, they're the ones who got the selection started. Freestriders are truly terrifying. I don't think so what, we don't even try to bring about Asgul's dream. I think it's more like we do it over time. Like, a lot of the times my character is asking questions like they don't understand, and in these instances I do understand, and I wish I had an option to show that I do understand exactly what we're coming from and like what your response is probably going to be to this, but I don't. You don't even try to bring about Asgul's dream? He sighs. I don't know. I'm an idiot. You figure it out. I mean, that's unfortunately what a lot of people come to. They're defeated. They see all of this horrible, horrible shit happening around them, and you just get beaten down by having empathy, basically, and just feeling awful for people, and you want to do things, but you also have to care for yourself at some point. You can't constantly just be thinking from the angle of how can I fix these problems that are way outside of my scope and scale without just massively burning yourself out, which is exactly what the opposition wants anyway. And it sucks. It sucks to see horrible, horrible things happening in the world like are happening right now for a variety of reasons with the various wars and all of the awful, awful fascist shit going on in the US and many other places. And it's difficult to get out of the mind space where you're like, at some point I have to take care of myself a little bit. But the feeling horrible about everything happening is still there, and you can't escape it. And especially people that are like neurospicy and stuff have a harder time not thinking about those things because they see these horrible fucking things happening and they want to do something about it, but they can't. And they're just stuck there sitting with the thoughts, and it feels horrible. So this character is incredibly relatable. I really like this character a whole lot. They're just real. You know, like, they're incredibly interested in these subjects, and they know about the pitfalls of a lot of these things because they've specifically studied the culture and the history behind it. So they understand these things, and they can see the clear trend of things happening once again, and it just depresses them because they can't do anything about it. What an interesting character. I mean, this game has a variety of extremely, extremely interesting characters that have a lot of nuance. It's not just, you know, black and white as a lot of these things. As you're saying, like, there's going to be Asgulus that aren't doing the things that some people would want the Asgulus to do. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be people that support the Freestriders but aren't technically, like, automatically awful people. Like, these things are here, and I like that the game is giving nuance to it, because so often in video games they treat people like they're a child, kind of in media in general, if I'm being quite frank. They treat people like they're children. They have to show people this good guy, this bad guy, when there can be nuance to the things. And like, yes, there's a place for just ludicrously awful Disney villains that you're like, yes, as soon as I get a chance, I will decapitate them. Absolutely. But it's interesting when you have nuance to characters, like you understand why they came to certain conclusions, or you understand why they're doing these things. And this game has a lot of that makes you sit down and think and realize that things aren't always just as set in stone in black and white as things are, you know, shown. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And this is not to say that, like, you know, centrism needs to reign here and you need to look at both sides and stuff. There are absolutely 100% unequivocally just evil, fucked up people that are just doing things for awful reasons, and they don't deserve any pity from me. But it is interesting to have characters that are just shown as flawed, because so often everyone is perfect. Especially in RPGs. Like, or they're just ludicrously evil. Like, your villains are, oh, these people, they eat babies. That's their thing. They eat babies and do ritualistic sacrifice. And they, like, they're just horrible in every way. But it's interesting to have characters that are just doing things, and villains that are like, well, God, ooh, this is awkward because I see where they're coming from, but holy shit, their methods are horrible. You know? It's really interesting to have games do that. This is absolutely, I think, probably going to be my game of the year. This is such an interesting adventure, and I really, really, really think the best follow-up to Disco Elysium. There's so many that are being made by the Fragments of Zom and various other things, and I don't feel like anything is going to hit as well as this does, and it has a setting that's, quite frankly, more interesting to me as well. God. With a deep groan, he starts rubbing his hairy face. Workers unite, and unionization and guild power, it is all well and good until it gets too loud. Make a bit too much noise, and the true powers quickly and efficiently drop the illusionary mask, facade, the esoteric spell that tricks us into thinking they care, that they're in any way Folkarian. So what about you, cleric? And that's the point where you start your violent option, but you also, it's a balancing act, because you can't let it get too far. You can't let them have the mask on until they get enough power to suppress you, and then try to react. It's a balancing act of, okay, well, what point is too far? How much surveillance is too much surveillance? How much suppression is too much suppression? You know? You're voting Asgalist, I presume? I'm voting for the new God King Wizard Emperor. My good gnome, I am entirely apolitical. My god, you can really just go the insufferable apolitical route. Yes, they have my vote. Terrible to hear, but why not, right? He sniffs. Now, for something else, before I start ranting about the suffragette movement. Companion glances at you. No, please, I really, really, really want to know what you think about the suffragettes. This is going to be a long episode. Halfling wags a finger at you. You're a brave man, cleric. Thanks. Wink at him. When the first talks of an election began, it was late Arcane era, about 30 years ago. In those early days, the suffragettes were mostly dwarven women. They had the backing of a few hardcore universal Asgalist sects that had remained since the Great Project concluded. Great Project, a period of 12 years where a mass of dwarves immigrated to the newly reconquered and founded Norvik to be employed in the construction of the city. But when Earth died and talks of an election grew loud, the dwarven women had a hard time getting through, both because of the less progressive Asgalists and, of course, the traditional cultural practices of the Earth folk. The dwarven women had a hard time getting through because this was done in, you know, suffragette movements in the real world as well, because, you know, these things mirror real world politics, where there were various movements that were like, well, we should all come together in unity to help everyone get the ability to vote, and they would be like, well, let's get our vote through first, and then we can work on getting the women's vote as well. I don't remember the exact person, but I remember specifically when African Americans were trying to get the ability to vote, there was a moment, there was a time, and I am paraphrasing, so apologies if I get any of this wrong, but I distinctly remember a time where one of the leading people that was working on getting that vote was only concerned about getting it for African American men at the time. Because basically what he said to the woman suffragette at the time was like, look, doing both at once is too much. We need to get our vote, and then we can help you get your vote. And it's basically, I'm getting the same vibe here. The Asgalists are like, oh, we need to get more power first, but then we can bring you into the fold after we establish the power. And that's like, no, that's not how you do it. You need to come together. The reason that, like, the LGBT plus community, if you're using the full acronym, the LGBTQIA plus community, has so many is because you need those different groups to come together into one unit so that you have more power. You're all minorities, and coming together gives you more strength to your cause by banding together, you know, many people together strong, etc., etc. So the movement didn't kick into gear properly until, of course, human women decided to join. Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah, go on. Mind you, this was after almost 2 decades of dwarven women pushing for universal suffrage. This is really mirroring a lot of civil rights movements, in the US especially. Oh god. Within just a few years, with the voice of angry, rich human women yelling and writing and protesting, the palace patriarchy gave in. Yep. That's the history lesson. But here's the part I'm fucking furious over. What? Those rich human women? Do you know what happened to them? Waves his hand. I'll tell you, many of them are today's fascists, can you imagine? They run an incredible campaign in order to get the right to vote, to break their chains of oppression, piss off the tyrannical men, smash the patriarchy, and so on, all to throw their lot in with the very same traditionalist ideology. Ooh. This is... Oh god, this is bringing out things in... Oh god, this is so... incredibly accurate to today, not only with rich women, but especially, since it seems like a fill-in for it, affluent, rich white women that are completely happy with just being, you know, just keeping, like, oh yeah, we got our right to vote, and they're putting people in that are actively trying to take away, like, your rights to your body, your rights to vote in many cases, etc., etc. And usually they're being, like, tricked with, like, a carrot on a stick because, you know, a good amount of these women are, like, you know, have weird opinions about trans people and are TERFs and things. So they're like, oh, well, we're targeting trans people, so yeah, we'll definitely work with women. And then they vote for that because they have this weird fucked up view of what femininity is supposed to be and women are supposed to be in the first place. So they get tricked into taking away the things that their grandmothers and stuff straight up fought for. It's crazy seeing how much in current day, how little people pay attention to some of the things that their ancestors fought for. Something I've very loudly said before is there's many people that have political opinions today that their own grandfathers or great-grandfathers would be fucking disgusted with them for. Because they fought against the exact same thing that their you know, their progeny is now for. It's so weird. It's so incredibly weird. And it's just like, it shows such a sheer disrespect for history and how little the collective subconscious of people is, because people don't remember these things. We have such a short memory, and things are only going to get worse as we continue further, with, like, so many people trying to get their ideas and their thoughts from just AI and companies and just all of these things that want you to believe a certain thing instead of looking at the past that's right in front of you and seeing what we can learn from it. There's a reason I like history so much, because it's incredibly important to pay attention to, and we can learn a lot of good lessons from it. Lessons that we've already learned multiple times and somehow always forget. I'm ranting too. I feel you, Snurre. I don't even know if I'm saying your name right. I don't know if it's Snurre. Oh, this character's interesting. Ideology that clearly wants to, well, of course, also just not have any voting going on at all, but specifically not allow women to vote. Yup. Yup. Oh my god. Shrug. I don't understand women. Maybe they realize the error of their ways. That's ridiculous. Why would they do that? I ask the same. Part of me thinks it has to do with some type of opportunism. These are women whose time in the spotlight ended once they won the right to vote. Suddenly their entire platform of activism disappeared overnight. But even still, why nationalists? They realize that the homeland needs protection, surely. This is why I never could have went for that even as a joke route, because I would have been so angry that I couldn't agree with you here. Perhaps there is some, if you don't mind me speculating wildly, some type of perverse psychosexual thing at play here. What? No, nationalism is a pure ideology. There is no sex involved. Highly misogynistic statement. You should do better. Or it is simply a question of class. It probably is. Yes, probably. I mean, class definitely plays into it as well. They're mostly a group of rich people, and that would logically supersede their identity as women. If the rich women position in society is threatened, they have more to lose as rich than as woman. Yes. It's a complex topic, and I don't have fucking time to think about it, even though I want to desperately figure it out, but that is just something I'm fascinated by, you know? Anyway. So, can I mention it? Am I allowed? What? You know. About your mom? Your mother. Oh. Oh, sure, I don't care. Oh. Well, it's not often I get to ask this particular question, but I am intrigued, so I will. Why is your mother a fascist? You've had a chance to ask that before? There's a distinct possibility, yes. No clue. I don't talk to her much. Too bad. If you find out, then please. I am dying to know. You don't talk to your mother often, let alone about politics. Maybe we should start. You're a halfling, right? Give me your thoughts on the Clanland ordeal. Ordeal? Scratches his nose and looks up into the air. Eh. You're not interested? Interested? Of course I am interested. My homeland is a shell of broken people. The clans in my kin, especially those stuck under occupation across the Golden Line, they're being systematically destroyed, step by step, as the Horde marches into Ascani land. I read about that. The Golden Horn claimed a part of Ascan. I'm glad that it mentioned this. A big chunk, yes. Then they put up their esoteric wall. He grunts. The Clanland's deal, this armistice, was seen by many as a practical solution, since only 2 clans were left to be enslaved and integrated as Horde tributaries. He slams his head into the side of his chair. It is a band-aid. Celestials view time in centuries, while we see decades at best. Thus, they can take one piece at a time, with generational acceptance in between. It's the most clean method of genocide, one of radiant ghosts and insidious toxic love. Oof, 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 oof. Oh, God. This is so fucked. This is what is super interesting about this game. It's basically just, you know, putting real-world politics into a fantasy setting, and just, it's so interesting and so well-written. I love it, and I'm not normally one that's even able to point out when something is well-written or well done, but I don't know, I guess these particular topics strike a nerve in me. What will happen to them? Tomorrow? Nothing. In a decade? Not much. Fortnite will still stand by the time I die in 30 or 40 years, but by the end of this new era, my homeland will surely be eradicated. That is my estimation. Did you live in the Clanlands? When the Golden Line was drawn? Yes. It's not that interesting, but I was on the western side when it happened. There wasn't enough food to go around, so I pulled some strings to smuggle myself east. It's a whole story. Can't say much more. My clan, the Appledents, all live in Tipberry, so it's not some big personal tragedy on my part. More of a folkish destruction, a grander trauma, something generational. Even if I was there to witness it, I imagine you would feel something similar about the Coast War. That's extremely interesting. You could write a book on that. I have. Can't get it published, though. No one wants to deal with legal threats from the Horde. That's terrible. Is there resistance in Fortnite? Of course, it's a whole damn mess. Ignoring the actual guerrilla resistance west of Line, there's been a massive rally around anti-celestial sentiment in the east. They have attempted sanctions with Norvik, VK, and even Ilum backing. There's even been coast-spanning outreach, all the way to Kargamesh, to build some type of coast-spanning halfling coalition. Nothing works. The Horde has a finger in most every trade port. They own land and hold strong ties to every regime. Even Norvik has not officially backed their neighbors. Without Earth, and with Lady Fair not so existing, they are, as the kids say it, steamed. As you can imagine, the halfling population of the hills are not too happy about this, but what can they do? An Asgal victory might change things, but the Free Striders are in the celestial pockets, as are the Patriarchs. So yes, there is resistance, but as of yet, there's no practical way out of this frog being boiled, I'm afraid. A great tragedy for the small folk to be crushed by a radiant fascist boot. Why do they want the clanland so badly? Waves his hand. It is a basic resource conflict. Oh, oil, huh? Oh? Amber. You know, electrum. I've heard that Fortnip has a bunch of mining operations. A big fucking understatement. Commonwealth is the only reasonable source of amber for the many esoteric use cases. Spell storing, item crafting, consecration, esoteric attunement. It's an extremely useful material, a powerful one. So it is really no wonder the Horde wants to expand their golden line. If Norvik was more reliant on amber as a resource, I'm sure they too would covet those hills. But trading with the halflings does not seem so different from trading with the Horde. At least not today. Celestials influential in Norvik? Yes. They have a lot of soft power and trade, mostly. The Horde Ambassador is known to fling their contracts around like a devil in disguise, mostly to stop halfling-owned corporations from operating without major hassle. Any halfling would tell you the same. They luckily don't care for tiny clinics like my own, but... Sniffs. I will not stop in the material realm. I must go into the psychic as well. What? The Golden Horde. Their annexation of land is just the final step. Before that comes many little crushings of thoughts and dreams and a tyranny of pure ideology. Yep. They shape perceptions to maintain control. Yep, make them seem like the good people. Yep. An incredible evil. Those poor halflings. That's all I wanted to ask. Yes, yes. I have some personal questions. And nothing too interesting there, he says. See no reason why you would want to investigate an old halfling with nothing good to grant the world. You seem interesting enough. Kind of you, but you're wrong. My work is the only thing that is interesting, I assure you. Yeah, I mean, you didn't want to get into personal questions. God, what an interesting character. What a cool character, Appledent. Oh my god. That's all for now, thank you. This should probably be 2 episodes. That was an hour and 37 minutes, so I should probably split this one down the middle. Just so... you know, it'll help with my schedule and everything as well. I should. Nobody wants to listen to that for an hour and 40 minutes anyway, so. Alrighty. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time for some more.